Back again for another one. Today's topic is going to be about, yeah, you know it, religion. Today's topic is going to be about religion, man. And I just want to make one thing clear. I ain't knocking nobody for their religious beliefs. I ain't knocking nobody for not being religious. But this is the thing. If you can't read and you don't know how to interpret things and you have a hard time understanding, you need to get some help from school, not from people. You need to learn how to study because a lot of people don't know how to study. The reason why I'm saying that is because when you first start learning to read, you learn the words through repetition, watching other people say them. You know what I'm saying? Watching how they mouth look. You know how they made you sound out the letters when you were younger? Like cat. You know what I'm saying? Duh, dog. You know how they did that shit back in the day? That was just working on pronunciation. That's how most of everybody read today. How they've been reading for years. All they worry about is pronunciation. They don't worry about, comprehension. They don't worry about understanding and definition and shit like that. They only worry about punctuate. They only worry about how to, what did I say that was? I didn't say that was punctuation. They only worry about how to say it. I don't know if I said that. How the word sounds. If you can pronounce the word, right? That's all they worry about. I think I said punctuation. Punctuation is not like that. Punctuation is like, for what do you call that shit? All of the freaking commas and shit like that. But my thing is this right here. It's called study for a reason. People need to learn how to study. If you don't have a dictionary or, some type of thesaurus or some shit like that, when you're studying, especially when you're studying things you have to read, like English words and shit, you don't really learn the meaning of the words. Yeah, cat is an animal, but what if they're using a word differently? Instead of talking about the animal, they're talking about a person. When you call somebody a cat, are you meaning it in a good way or in a negative way? And see, that's the thing. A lot of the words that they're using in these religions is words that they're using in different types of ways. When they're talking about, when you say holy Christ, you know what I'm saying? You're not saying that you see Christ. You're saying that, something happened that would provoke you to call on, your Savior. But most people, man, they don't even know that you can use these words that way in the Bible because that's primarily what I'm talking about. Because I see a lot of people just blindly believing this shit and get nothing out of it except belief. That's it. That's all they're getting out of it, belief. And they have convictions that don't represent what they're learning. The shit that they're learning, they take more pride in pronouncing the word rather than understanding what it is. It's like people are just being told what to think. And that's a bad thing, man. You shouldn't have to be told what to think. You should be able to formulate your own ideas and shit based on the information that you're taking in, if you understand the information. Now, if I tell you, that I got hit like a raging bull, you're not gonna imagine a damn bull running down the street, running me over. You know what I'm saying? That's just a figure of speech. That's just an expression. You know, you need to learn what the bull represents. Even though I can turn around and say, and when I looked up, he was still running like a bull, bat out of hell. You know what I'm saying? Running like a bat out of hell. Now, most people would think that, hey, he's talking about somebody, how fast they run. Why y'all can't do that when it comes to religion? Why everything have to be taken definitely? You know what I'm saying? Why does it have to be perceived as being always the same? I hear people say this, preachers and shit. Trust the word. Yeah, but if you don't know what the word mean or what it could be mean in different contexts, then how are you going to trust in it? When you just reading something, it's like we don't have no people that have decipherability, decipher capabilities. We have people that just can read, just can say words. They don't know how to decipher this shit. And it's crazy because if they did, it would change their whole outlook on the way things are, and maybe they'd be able to pull themselves up out of whatever they in. I mean, if you can't take a story and get different meanings out of it, then you're just a follower. Then you're just a cult member. Because them stories have other meanings besides, what they're actually saying. What they're actually saying is just, meant to get you captivated so you could dig a little bit deeper into it. So maybe you can get the true meaning from behind it. The only way you're going to be able to do that, man, is if you have some type of assistance. And since all words came with definitions, it behooves you to learn all of them, to learn all the meanings of every word. And this is what true scholarship is. You don't just have a baseline meaning of the word. You don't just have a remedial, understanding of the word. You have a study, a scholarly understanding of the word. You know that words have 2 to 3 different definitions and meanings. And by knowing that, you're able to put each one of those into context when you're reading a story. I've always tried to put myself in a position where all the bases are covered. For instance, that phrase from the Bible, I think it's in Paul, I think, where he talks about, my people will die from lack of knowledge. Most people think that, hey, that means that if you don't know something, you're going to physically die. No, that's not what it means. See, and this is why it's so hard to get through to some people about this religion shit, and why being an atheist isn't, as bad as people think it is. An atheist is somebody that has, a skeptical outlook on things, which everybody should have. You can't just trust everything you see, hear, and read, because it could have some type of underlying meaning. An atheist, I think they've actually, cornered a market on this thing, that skepticism. Because above all things, most people believe in God. I think the atheists just want a little bit more proof. And ain't nothing wrong with that. Matter of fact, I applaud them on that. Because you'll never get nowhere if you just take everything off of face value. You'll always be able to be tricked and shit. So the best thing to do is to find out these words. That's that phrase, that scripture, my people would die from lack of knowledge. If you take it for word, that means that people are dying because they don't know certain things. That's not the case. The death isn't always physical. Yes, it could happen. Yeah, it can happen. But in actuality, if you think about it, dying is something people do every day. I'm talking about even if they're alive, they're dying. Every time you try to achieve something and it doesn't get accomplished, that's a death. You know what I mean by a death? That's like a failure. That's a failure for something that was designed to do something and it didn't happen. Like a malfunction or some shit like that. So it's not that people will die because they don't have knowledge. It's just that people will fail because when you don't have the proper instructions, you don't know how to make, the mechanism work. So it becomes a failure. So if people are trying to take the Bible as literal and take it as fiction, just total fiction, totally literal as being fact and truth, I don't think those people know exactly what that book is for and how it was made to be disseminated out to the public. That's why the Bible is one of the top selling books of all time and always will be. Because it only takes that position based off of its, popularity. And according to all the book companies and publishing and shit, the Bible has never, ever, and I don't think ever will be, outsold, out, sourced the way it has. It comes in many different languages, and since the mid '80s, there was only one real copy of the Bible. That was the King James version of it. And now, since the '80s, there's so many versions of the Bible. International. I mean, there's like almost fucking 24 versions of the Bible. And this is because people have such a hard time understanding the original version that they enlist people to make up versions that supports their conclusions. So the only real version of the Bible is the King James version, but everybody else is using these different ones to supplement for their lack of understanding. Because a lot of the shit that they have in these other Bibles, even though it's supposed to be, a copy of the original, which is the King James, they say that it's more simplified. It's more understandable. But in actuality, they're changing the meaning of it because you shouldn't need another book to rewrite and put in words to give you a better understanding. You should be able to do that for yourself. That's why it's called study. You should be able to break out an etymology dictionary and figure out these words that give you, meaning. Now, when you take the Bible and you translate it into Spanish, all of the Latin words aren't changed. They're the same. It's just the English words that are changed. And see, that's the whole meaning behind it. When you're reading a Latin word in English, you need to convert it back to an English word. The same meaning. There's a lot of words that have different meaning in different languages. And then you want to try and formulate it into yours. And if it doesn't mean the same thing in your language, now you have a different context of what the word means. And that's how you figure it out. I'm not saying don't leave it. Don't read it the same way. I'm just saying that now you have a different point of view. And that's why the Bible is so freaking important, because scholars can decipher this book like it's a damn, like they're doing espionage, and come up with all of these different variables and shit. Think about it. If this book was meant to be written as a non-fictional book, then we have to find ways to interpret it that makes it non-fictional. For instance, you're not going to see somebody in real life walking on water out in the middle of the sea. That's not going to happen. And if they are, they have some type of support device or something like that that's assisting them. But when they're saying just a person walking out on the water as if it was a solid surface, then you got to know that those words that they're talking have different meaning, that is a metaphor for something. And you should be able to do that by figuring out what the metaphor is and utilizing etymology. You know, it's not too hard to do that if you really want to study. And this is how we get different, you know, meanings and inspirations from this shit. I mean, like most of the inventions that we had back in the day that first started out our civilization came from the Bible. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Religion has driven society, especially in America, for over 200 to 300 years. And now that people have come to the end of that experience to where now it's not new like it used to be. I mean, it's like everybody forgot from the 70s all the way down to up to now about what religion was. And it's confusing. And now it's gotten to the point where there's large numbers of people that don't know. Because all the elderly people from back in the day knew exactly what it was. They were unshaken by, you know, what anybody said. It was the young people that delved off into these other avenues of enlightenment. And look where we ended up. Look where we ended up. I don't see how people don't see that when we started letting go what the older people were doing, that our situation got worse. The older people back in the day, all of them had gardens, flowers and shit around their houses. Even when they lived in apartments, they took pride and ownership in the environment that they lived in. Now you can't go to one apartment, you can't drive down the street and see one garden in none of these neighborhoods. Because there's nobody that's experienced in doing shit like that. And the few people that are, they hoard the information. They hoard it. You know, used to have people go out and just create gardens in empty lots and shit like that, just to give the neighborhood a little something to be proud of. Now, shit, those empty lots is like storage for trash and drug paraphernalia, you know, all kind of shit. When that shit could be turned around. That's why I don't listen to none of these guys when they talk about they helping their communities. Or they out there in the streets and shit. Because all they is just out there. They're not really doing nothing for nobody. And you ain't got to get everybody on board to do something to bring pride and ownership to a neighborhood. I mean, shit, if you're trying to help the neighborhood, fuck trying to help the kids and all. And, you know, I know that sounds bad, but before you can help a kid, first you got to give the kid a safe and healthy environment. If you're just buying them clothes and just feeding them, you ain't doing shit for them. You're doing something for them, but once you stop doing that, they back in the same situation they was in before you came out there and gave them a coat, a backpack, or a sandwich or some shit. It's not sustainable. See, the shit, when you get pride and ownership from some hard work and some thought-provoking actions, that shit tends to stay in place for a longer period of time versus you coming out there giving a fucking coat, a backpack, or a turkey or some shit like that. That's only temporary. That coat and that backpack, they not gonna want to wear that shit. You see these kids out here, they got a whole different, fashion sense. So when you think you helping them, you're actually hindering them. You got to teach them to build up their community from the inside out, not from the outside in. So you bringing outside shit into them ain't really going to help them. It's not sustainable. All it is just a handout. If you want to help a neighborhood or a community, fuck the people, build up the community. And I know that sounds bad, fuck the people. But these are the people that ain't giving a fuck about where they living at. They living in filth. So if you go out there and you clean they shit up and you let them see how good it could be, then now you just impacted them in a way that they might want to keep it like that. You see what I'm saying? When you come out there and you clean up a lot or a park and you make it suitable for kids, plant some flowers around these houses and these apartment complexes, clean up the damn streets, and then point out the bad actors that's fucking it up. And then maybe people might turn this shit around. Stop investing in people and start investing in the land. See, because we're always talking about culture, 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 my culture, your culture, whose culture. And we don't even know what the fucking word means. Culture don't mean dancing and singing and food and all that shit. It means the land. It means prepping the land for harvest, for growth, for all of that shit. Look that shit up, man. These words ain't just in these books for no reason. And we just say it all for, I mean, look at us. We've been talking about Fat Joe in the fucking hip hop community, talking about that's culture for the past 3 fucking weeks now. And look, ain't nobody actually pointed out what culture means, right? It don't mean hip hop. It don't mean blackness. Culture ain't got nothing to do with people. It got everything to do with land. When you culture the land, that's what that shit means. But we let social media and you know, mainstream tell us what culture is. When in actuality, it don't mean nothing. If you out there and you living in a neighborhood and you got places in the neighborhood that's fucking trashy, you got a fucked up culture. When your neighborhood look like trash, you live in a fucked up culture, man. I don't care if you got brand new Nikes on, a nice coat, a nice jacket, and you got money in your pocket, you still live in a fucked up culture. Because you, first of all, don't even know what culture means. Somebody needs to say this shit. They got a bigger audience than me. Because all of these people that's talking about this shit, they proving y'all ain't nothing but a bunch of dumbasses. Because ain't nobody calling they shit. They bullshit on this. Culture does not mean music, clothing, food, skin color, and this phenotype bullshit people always be talking about. Man, ain't nothing special about that shit. But what is special is when you turn around a piece of land and make it usable to people. People can't even use the land that they living on right now because it's so fucking dirty and polluted in the areas right where they standing. Look at Philadelphia. Fucked up culture. All that trash on the street, all these people on the street. And the city could do something about that. But when you got a city full of a bunch of fucking idiots, they don't see nothing wrong with that. They see that like business as usual. And then I hear these guys come on here and claim these places like they something. Chicago ain't shit. Bro, ain't shit special about Chicago, Louisiana, none of them places. They all shitholes. That's why people that live there are shitty. That's why people live there are shitty and they do shitty shit to each other. They do shitty stuff to each other. It's because ain't nobody cleaned up the area. You ever heard of cleanliness is next to godliness? See, that's the shit I'm talking about right there. People will listen to that and be like, I gotta go take a bath. No, they talking about your environment. Your environment. When they talks about the Garden of Eden, they don't talk about the Garden of Eden had a bunch of dead, rotten fruit all over the fucking place and leaves everywhere. Talk about that shit like it was immaculate, like it was perfect. That's why God could walk through that area and communicate with the people. God ain't nowhere to be found in these areas no more. You know why? Because it's so fucking filthy. And the people are just filthy by association. And it's a shame. And it all has something to do with these faulty ass preachers. Then just ran away people, good people, and turned them into something they weren't meant to be. Animals. When you sit up and you tell people that sin, the wages of sin is death, when they don't even know what sin you're talking about. Are you talking about synthetic? Are you talking about crimes against humans? Are you talking about crimes against animals? What are you talking about? And see, this is the shit that gets me. Because people don't know what sin is. They think sin is looking at somebody and feeling a certain kind of way about them. Your thoughts. Sin is not a thought. Sin is not what you think and what you see and how you look at things. Sin is an action. See, so it has to be something that you do, not something you feel. You know what I'm saying? Like you say, God knows what's inside you. You know what I'm saying? But where's God to say and prove it? And this is where religion has the hardest issue when it comes to atheism, because they don't know how to deal with people that don't believe in the spirit world. See, they don't know how to transform, the spirituality into physicality. They don't know how to do that. See, because they're constantly believing these stories that the preacher's telling them straight out of the book instead of deciphering it. Talking about we don't battle, we don't struggle with physical. We struggle with things on high places and spiritual places and shit. And that right there makes you think that, hey, this is something out of my control. But it ain't. See, because what they talking about is not about angels and demons and fucking devils and shit. They're not talking about that. When you're not dealing with things that are physical, you're dealing with things that are spiritual. Instead of fighting it out with your fist, right? That's not what they're dealing with. You're fighting it out with the spirit, which is your words. Because spirit is breath. And we form words with our breath. You see what I'm saying? So these are spiritual things when you're talking to somebody. And you know how we use our spiritual warfare for stupid shit. Like smoke on the internet. Debating. See? That's a good way to keep yourself in shape spiritually, because being able to communicate is warfare in itself. And this is what they mostly talk about in the Bible. It's not talking about no angels, demons, and devils and shit. It's talking about people like you and me that's using their spirit for nefarious shit, using their vocabulary, using their influence for bad shit. So you're not dealing with physical things. You're dealing with spiritual things in high places, like people in high office that's using their influence and words to control the people in low areas. And this is the shit that I be talking about, where preachers fall short because they can't read their fucking self. They like to hear the words. They like to hear themselves scream. They like the reaction of the crowd, but they not getting the true meaning of this shit out. So you're not going to die physically from not knowing shit, but you will suffer. You will fail at a lot of things. You will fail at a lot of shit because you don't have the understanding on what it is. And each one of those failures is considered a death in society. Because if you don't know that just because you are ignorant to laws, that you can still be held accountable, guess what's going to happen to you? Your freedom will die on that fucking ignorance. Because your ass will still go to fucking jail. I don't care if you didn't know that you couldn't slap the shit out of somebody in public. You're still going to jail. And you just died on that ignorance right there. And you're going to serve the consequences. They're going to take you out of life, which is the streets, and they're going to put your ass in purgatory, which is death. And this is the shit that I be talking about when I be trying to explain, because it does matter, man. It does matter. If people can't grasp the remedial, how are they going to grasp the advance? See? How they going to grasp the advance? Ain't nobody trying to pick up on this shit no more. Ain't nobody trying to use it for their benefit. Just like our relatives that are dead and gone right now, that everybody want to call ancestors and shit, utilize this understanding to live a long, healthy life, we done fell short of this shit. I mean, as soon as you get something, some type of illness, the first thing you want to do is run to science, right? Run to science. What did they used to say back in the day when you have an illness? Put it in God's hands, right? And we thought that meant get on your knees and pray real hard, tell God you want to be healed, and there you go, you're healed. But in actuality, what is the main thing you're doing when you're putting things in God's hands? You're having patience. You're waiting to see God's works. See, and most people, if they just fucking wait and let their bodies heal up, they wouldn't have to go and deal with these invasive procedures that the doctors have. For instance, check this shit out. Cancer is caused by bacteria. Remove the bacteria, and guess what happens to the cancer? It goes away. Why don't doctors tell you shit like that? Right? A broken bone, right, will mend itself. You don't need a fucking cast, a splint. You don't even need to set the bitch, tell you the truth. You don't need to even set it. Because see, what the doctors don't tell you is that when they set your broken bone, they're actually doing more damage than good. Because they got to take what is considered, if it's not a clean break and it's a jagged break, now they got to take all of that shit and try and force it back into place. When you have certain things in the body that's set up for that type of countermeasure, like inflammation, swelling, all of that shit is good shit for your body. Inflammation helps blood circulation in broken bones and wounds and shit like that. If you don't have no inflammation in your body, when you have a break, 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose that part that's broken. You know why? Because there's no blood flow. See, inflammation is part of your body. It's what the body makes as a countermeasure for damage. Swelling is the same thing. When something swells up, guess what it's doing? It's putting padding around the injury. For what, you ask? So it doesn't get re-damaged. Because now it's in the healing process. You don't want to undo all the shit that you just done. And this is the thing that I don't understand. That's the first thing doctors do. Oh, we want to bring down the swelling. No, man. You know what they're going to do to your body to bring down that swelling? They're going to give you chemicals from nature that the body is inherently allergic to bring down the swelling. See, we think that these people are helping us, but they're utilizing poisons to treat us. For instance, if you got allergies, you take a what? An antihistamine, right? You know what the antihistamine does? It shuts down your body's normal defenses from allergic materials entering the body. And believe it or not, every plant on this earth, humans are allergic to. Every plant. If you don't believe me, just go outside and grab the first plant you see and rub it on your skin. Right there on your arm. Just rub it in. Just rub it in. Nothing special. Just rub it in. Brush off the heavy material and let it sit and watch what happens. Your body's natural reaction. Your body's natural reaction is going to give off an allergic reaction. You're going to see bumps. You're going to see a little bit of swelling. You're going to get itching. That's a natural reaction. Now, you can go take an antihistamine, and guess what you're going to do with that? You're going to cut the connection between your natural reaction and your skin. And guess what? The swelling's going to go down. The itch is going to stop. But guess what? Now what you've just done is you just disarmed your body's only natural alarm system, which is called an allergic reaction. Some people need that when they consume things that's inherently dangerous to their body in the form of allergic reaction. But the people that don't, You don't need that shit, man. The body is doing that for a reason. It means remove yourself from the area. Get into an area where it's not affecting you as much. And then slowly introduce yourself back to it. You know, build up a tolerance, not an immunity. There's no such thing as immunity. I don't even see why people do shit like that. When they were talking about COVID back in the day, and Fauci was saying, we want to build up herd immunity, he was actually saying, we want to build up the ability in lots of people to be able to adapt to this illness. See, humans don't evolve, all right? We don't become immune, all right? We adapt and we build tolerances. That's how you become strong. It's like a bodybuilder is actually showing us in real time what an allergic reaction can do to the body. When you lift weights for long periods of time, right, and you tear your muscles, the reaction you get from doing that is an actual allergic reaction. And people can't see shit like that. And I'm just saying, man, we need to dig a little bit deeper if we don't really come up out of some of these situations we're in. Because ain't nobody gonna fucking help you. I don't care how many coats and backpacks and turkeys and fucking free money and cars and shit you give each other. Because when you're gone and you take all that shit with you, guess what? They back where they at. See, if a rich person want to help somebody, truly help them, and you want to change their life, and you have the ability to do that, why not just make the person you helping rich, just like you? Just make them rich. You want to give them peanuts so you feel good about yourself when you could give them millions and bring them up out of that situation. If they did that to every homeless person, they would find out that 90% of these people aren't there by circumstance. They're there by choice. And not only that, the people that they did help wouldn't probably fall back into that situation. Meaning that if they were given the opportunity to be a millionaire, 9 times out of 10, they would remain one for the rest of their life. When given the opportunity to be something other than what you are, and it's done the right way, people don't change. And this is the problem that we have. We think that giving them just enough to survive is going to be enough. You might as well not give them anything at all. And that's exactly what I say. Don't give people shit. See, because once you give them something, you can't control what they do with it. Improve their environment. You see, if you go to somebody's house and they ain't got no doors, no windows, when you go in, the house is just fucked up, and the people are like, yeah, we just need a little bit of help. And you turn around and give them thousands of dollars, you think they're going to replace all that shit? Some of them would. But other people are going to be like, shit, I'm going to spend that. I'm cool with what's going on up in this bitch. See? But if you take that money and you refurbish that house, fix it up, clean out all of that shit, that'll last longer than the money you gave them. That will last longer. Because now they see, how good something can be if you just put a little bit of work into it. And so stop following people that only want to help you to benefit themselves. And stop following people that only tell you there's one way to see shit. So there's more than one way to see shit. And I can see that now because I listen to some of these guys and the shit that they say, the earth is round, the earth is flat. It ain't neither one of them bitches. So take solace in that, knowing that neither one of these situations are set in stone. Neither one of them. Until next time, salute to the real ones. I'm out.